Well, I'm Bob Vennema. I was here a couple, 3 years ago and gave a demonstration, and I was asked to do it again, so here I am. I have some new things. For one thing, a lot of people have trouble making a straight line. And this is a replica of a skew. This is the type of skew that I like to use because it has a point on here, and when I want to go straight, this is rounded so that it doesn't dig in. And you can take, and when you want to make a straight line, you want to make sure that this is perpendicular to the wood that you have, and that it's not angled off this way, that you're going straight. So you put that down, and then you can follow that line right up straight, just like that. And don't go fast. Take your time and go slow. You watch in the front and in the back for color. Also, another reason I like this tip, because of the point, if you have a very short area that you want to do in between lines, where this rounding is, you don't know exactly where it's going to touch the board. When you have the sharp point, you can put it right on the line, and you can move it just to the next line. That makes it a lot easier to not overburn. Another thing you can use this thing for is shading. If you have a narrow place, like is in between these two lines, you turn your skew sidewise. And then you can put this part right here along the edge of the line, and you can twist it a little bit this way, like this, and get it a little wider or keep it narrow, and you can come right up that line, and then you turn your board around the other way like this, and you come up on the other side of the line, and then you can fill in the middle if you need to. I have another replica of a shader. You can see that it's on a 45, and again, it has the point. So if you want a shade, you can put that point along the line, and you tip it a little bit so that this edge is touching the wood. And don't press real hard. And that's another thing with the skew. Don't press real hard on it. Let the skew and the heat do the work. You don't have to, if you push hard, it burns down in the wood, and it just don't work good. And the other thing that you need to do, both with a skew and with a shader, is you have to adjust your heat to the speed that you are going to work. And I recommend that you don't go fast, because what happens when you go fast across here, the heat on this tip is getting less and less because it's applying the heat to the wood. If you feel the wood, you can feel that the wood is warm. So you don't want the thing real hot, because when you touch it down, that will get real hot and real dark, and especially with the skew, it'll burn down in deep. So you want to go along slowly like this, and you watch behind it. You may have to go over it 2 or 3 times to show a demonstration, to show you what it looks like. This arc that I shaded right here, I went over about 3 times to get that to shade to look like that it's all nice and even. And if you have it hot, then you won't get an even shade. By leaving it light, you can do it. Now here I shaded the whale. That, of course, I wanted dark. So then I turned my heat up, and I went over that twice to get it to look like that. That's the key to the whole thing, is to keep your burner heat down and go over it 2 or 3 times to get the results that you want. If you have it too hot and you don't go fast enough, you're not going to be happy with what happens. Also, I have a fake writing tip. and I have a regular one also. And with that, you can make circles around. And again, don't put much pressure, because if you're going to put pressure on it and you're going this way with it, it's going to sink into the wood. If you want a darker and you need pressure and you have to make a zero, you start here, you come around this way, like so, and you go back up here and you come around this way like so. Because if you go this way, it's going to dig into the wood. Also, you can use this type of tip if you have curves. You can just take that along and you can just watch where your tip is going. You can follow that curve right on around, but don't go fast. A key to doing it good is making sure you have a good arm rest, so that your arm doesn't get tired, that you can just move that around, and just keep right on going. Those are the three basic tools that I use. And I use that skew probably 90% of my time. On all of these burnings that you see over here, I use this skew probably 90% of the time. Once you get used to it, it's just a tool I wouldn't be without. We go back over here on these animals like this where there's hair, on here, there, I go over this about 4 times to get this hair to look like this. If you look, you can see this area right in here is darker than the rest of this, because that is where his hind leg is. I wanted to show where his hind leg was. So I made that darker. On all of these type things, and also on grass that I do, there's between 800 and 1,000 strokes per square inch. The reason I go over it 4 times is because when you're doing the hair is going this way, like this. Okay? If you make all of these lines this way, there's going to be areas in between these lines that are not going to get the wood burnt. So you go over this several times, and then you turn you have your skew with the 2 fingers and your thumb, and then you can rotate that with your thumb on your fingers like this, so that you with your skew, you can turn it this way, you can turn it this way, and that way you get all these little spots filled in. I have another board here that I can demonstrate it with the burner. I can turn my burner on. And what you need to do is you have to try it out a little bit first, as to get the heat. Now, another thing, when you're burning the hair on an animal, you always start at the bottom of the animal and you work up, so that the second hair kind of overlaps the first one. It covers the root of the first one. Let's see if this is hot now. Okay. Now, this is what it looks like when I traced it out. I went over it with a burner where I had traced it, and you notice there is no straight lines, no solid lines. They're all little dashes, because the hair on an animal is not straight line like it is on a building. So then I go over it a second time to make it look like this, and then I can go over it a third time and make it darker. It takes a little while to do, and I only do about 1/4 of an inch wide, because what I'm doing is I'm heating the wood, and then I go up about and just keep going. And see, I'm just turning my skew just a little bit each time, and that way I'm filling in and darkening it all up. Once I go a little ways, then I'll come back down over alongside and I'll start another one and work my way up. That way you get it the way you want it, but you don't want to go over the same area too often, because that wood gets hot and then you'll get a dark spot in there, or dark streaks in there. I can show you over here where there isn't much hair. This has only been gone over once, but see now if I go too long, see how dark I'm getting dark streaks in there? And if I push too hard, then look what happens. It flares out. Then I still use this skew like to shade this nose because it's small and the area here was small. I put that sidewise and I can just turn it like that. And if I wanted to, I could do the whole nose just by turning it sidewise, going along the edge where I went. Just keep going around, then covering it right up. That way you can get you can have that all done. And I like to do the nose and the eyes because then that makes your drawing looks nicer to you when you get the hair on it. It all just seems to blend in. Now to make this area in here is going to be lighter on this particular dog, so I would, instead of having it dark like this, I would have this, well now here with this nose I got to come up from up here and work my way down. So this area in here would be lighter and I would go a little faster, or else if you don't want to go faster you turn your heat down. But by going faster and just keep moving that thing time and time again, then you come back over it. After you've gone a ways, you come back over it and you can get it the way you want it. Now I can still see some light white spots in here, so you just go over it another time and you just fill those in. What you're doing is you're shading with lines. I make cards out of cardstock. This is, you can buy these tablets and you can have cardstock. You trace your picture on there, and then generally I use my writing tip because I don't want a sharp point so that it burns through the paper. Then you can write on the inside if you like. You buy these in a tablet, and you cut it in half from top to bottom, and you fold that in half, and then you have two cards out of one card sheet of paper off from the tablet. I've also done some burning on plexiglass. I've made plexiglass ornaments. On those, you can just put your pattern right underneath your plexiglass. I cut this out with a coping saw. What I did is I just took my little writing tip and I made all little dots. That's how that is all. That's why that's a different shade, is because wherever I wanted it shaded, I made dots. Where I wanted it clear, I didn't touch it. And then you can do it. This is the same way. You left the letters without doing anything. The other way you can do it just the reverse way. You can do the letters and leave the rest plain. But to me, this showed up more this way. And you can make all kinds of decorations. If you have I've tried with the scroll saw, but that blade moves a little bit too fast, and it melts the plastic, and then you have a mess. So that's why I use a coping saw to do it. Now here I have two boards, but I have pictures on both sides. This was the copy of what I wanted to get burnt on. This is the tracing. This is all I traced. You'll see all the little dashes. Well, I can use this as a pointer too. You can see all the little dashes all the way around, and I did the eyes straight and the nose with a line, and a little dashes down through here showing the direction that the hair is going. When I got that all done, then I burned it. Okay, this is the first time that I went over it, and I burned all the areas and got the direction. And again, don't burn it too hot the first time, because if you got the hair going a little bit the wrong way, it's not so dark. You can go over the top of it and cover it up, and you won't know that you made a mistake, or nobody else will know you made a mistake. That's the second time over it. Then the third time, I filled it in more. Again, I didn't make it dark. I made it fairly light. Then the fourth time, or third time, I thickened it again, and then on the final time, it will look like this. You had, as on the way through, you make these spots here that you want to look darker. It's like where where they turn their neck, or where their legs are. Then you can make those little areas a little darker. Like I did over here on this hound dog, to show where the edge of the ear is. I made that darker so that you can see that. And here, the same way in here, because and underneath his chin he's got like two little puff balls. That makes these stand out. And you shade just a little bit darker from the going up there. This is all supposed to be white, but I can't burn white very well. So I try to keep my heat low and do it that way. Now then I also do some that I color. I use oil pencils to color them with. And to get, there's the fish is over there also. In order to get the fish to blend in, you can see that there isn't a real solid thing. It kind of blends here, the light and dark here. So you start down here where you want it light, and you work your way up with a lighter color. Then you come with a little darker one, and you go over it a little bit. And then to finish it off, you use a little thing like this. It's rolled paper. And you just take that and you rub quite hard on there, and you blend them colors in. And that fills in all the little grain in the wood from with the oil pencils. Then you spray a clear coat over the top of it, one clear coat over the top of it, so that it will set those colors. And then I take a brush and I brush 2 coats of polyacrylic by Minwax over the top of it. And if you look, there's a little bug over here that he's going to go get. I make all my own scale tips. I have 6 different sizes, because there's different sizes where the fins are and where the gills are and so forth. And you start at the mouth and you work your way back to the tail. Then also over here on the eagle, if you look real closely, you can see on these long feathers, the tail feathers, and these long wing feathers, I put the quill in here. You have it up through the middle of the feather. You make the quill, and then you take your tip and you start up here on this side of that line. You go this way. Then when you turn your board around the other way and you start down here at the bottom and you go this way, and then you can see where your last line was, so you can get the next one close to it. And that's just all done free-handed. There is also a product, I guess I don't have it here. Oh yeah, the fish does. There's a product called Treasure Crystal Coat. It's a clear, thick material, and you can put that over there in on that eye, and it almost makes it look like a glass eye. Okay, over here on the landscaping, to make these different things to look like different shrubs, I put a dark edge around them so that you can tell that there's more than one shrub in here. And here I made it darker because I figured this was a different kind of shrub. Same way with this leaves. The thing with wood burning is shading and the contrasting of colors, or not colors, of light and dark burnings. That's how it makes it stand out. It maybe doesn't look like this siding has been burnt, but it has all been burnt. But this is very light, and then I make it a little darker in some places. The flowers, I use the tip of a shader, and I hit it 3 times to make 3 different petals. Turn your shader different ways, and you make 3 different things, and it looks like it has 3 points. You can make it 4 if you want, but I just made 3. All of these shingles, because these are not they're rounded ones, I use the writing tip again because it's a lot easier when you make a circle. And same way with some of this finer stuff. And here also, I made this is burnt very lightly. It almost looks like the same as this, but it's gone over. And one thing with your shading, if you're going to color it, do not shade it, because what you're doing if you shade it is you're sealing the wood, and your color won't adhere to it, unless maybe if you paint it. But I don't do any painting. I use colored oil pencils. So if you're going to color it at all, don't shade it. I myself prefer hard maple because I like hard maple. And the key for any wood is make sure you have it sanded as smooth as you can get it, because then your tip does not move around. You can guide your tip. It doesn't want to catch into in the grain. And I don't use pine wood or oak because of the growth rings are hard, and in between it's a little softer, and I can't get a nice even stroke through it. I usually just use 120 grit. I cut all my own wood with a chainsaw. If it's under 16 inches, I have a planer that I can run it through, and I've got wood that's wider than that, and then I take a belt sander and I'll start out with 50 or 80 grit paper and then go down to 120. And because with the chainsaw, I have a 10-degree cutter on it, and that makes a big difference. When you cut it, it's not real rough. It don't take much to sand it smooth.
When I burn, even when I have it down low.
What I did do is I put some Velcro around it. Okay? One other thing that might be your problem is what I call, you put a death grip on it. You go like that. If you go like that, your thumb and your fingers are going to get hot. If you hold it lightly like this, especially if you put the Velcro in it, there's a little bit of air in between it. I found by putting these Velcro things on it, it helps quite a bit. It has its self-adhesed on the back. I do all of mine. I have double purpose for that. This is the box I keep my wood burner in, and I put 2 strips of the felt type stuff down, and then I can just put my tips right in there, and then they're all right there together. Well, This is why I made this stand. When I'm sitting in front of it, I can raise and lower this. I've got some iron back here with all holes in it, angle iron, and I can adjust that any angle that I want. And when I'm sitting down at a bench, I like it raised up a little bit, because then I'm going like this and not like this. This way, if you're working something and you don't have a place to rest your hand, you can just pull this up, put it up here, then you've got a place you can rest your hand. And then if you're going to do it way up here, if it's not comfortable, you can lower it down. That's why I've got 4 holes up here that I can raise and lower this piece so that my hand is comfortable. And like you say, when you're doing it, I don't go like this. My hand is like this. Anybody else have any questions? Yes. I go to Radio Shack and I buy wire connectors that are, there's 6, 8 of them, all in plastic, that you can buy at Radio Shack. And they look like this here. I don't know if you can see that or not. You can come up here. There's 2 screws. You take the one screw out, and what I do is if I have a tip that broke off through here and it doesn't make a complete connection, then I cut it off right here. Then you have these things sticking out here. Then you can silver solder. You just put one of these in each one of those things and you silver solder those in. You have the other screw here, and when you get your wire, you put them in there like this, and you just tighten those screws, and that's what holds them in. You want to make fish scale tips. Again, you have your wire in here, and you have that flat, and you make it different widths like that. Then you take a drill bit. You can get whatever size scale you want. You take a drill bit, you put that in your vise. You put that right up there onto that drill bit, and you take your pliers and you pinch it around, and you can have your rounding fish tip. I have 6 different sizes that I made. I would go every other drill bit is how I done it.